At the start of the movie, we see Frank, a wealthy club owner, leisurely walking through a rival nightclub. The establishment features live music performed by Tito La Riva. The club is bustling wealthy men, beautiful women, and alcohol, creating a vibrant atmosphere. Suddenly, a brawl erupts, capturing the attention of our protagonist, James. As the chief of security for the club, James swiftly approaches the brawling men, urging them to calm down while his team of bouncers works to subdue the violence.
It's all right. We're just having a little fun. It's okay. Sorry.
But he unexpectedly reaches for a knife, stabbing James's arm. Fully aware of James's formidable reputation, this man boldly challenges him to a one-on-one combat, seeking to test his own mettle against the renowned Cooler. With a resolute nod, James accepts the challenge, ready to face his opponent head-on. Exiting the club, James calmly turns around and returns back, leaving his opponent outside, cleverly tricking him into leaving without further escalation. Returning to the club unharmed, James demonstrated his skill in defusing the situation peacefully. Attentively observing the entire incident, Frank, the club owner, approaches James as he tends to his wounded arm. Impressed by James's abilities, Frank extends an enticing offer for him to take charge of security at his own establishment, the Double Deuce. After some persuasive discussion and the promise of a substantial golden handshake of $5,000, James succumbs to the offer, accepting the job opportunity immediately. Due to aerophobia, James declines the ticket purchased by Frank and asserts his intention to make the journey to Missouri by driving himself. Arriving at the Double Deuce, James is greeted with a chaotic scene in the parking lot, littered with rowdy bikers and men engaging in violent, bottle-breaking altercations who arrogantly evaluate his brand-new Ferrari. Everywhere he turns, he witnesses the open sale of drugs within the club premises, leaving him to ponder the gravity of the situation he has willingly stepped into. Feeling a mixture of apprehension and uncertainty, James begins to realize that he's going to really have his work cut out for him at the Double Deuce. He notices that his old friend, a blind singer named Cody, played by the legendary Jeff Healey, is performing on stage. Disordered visitors periodically throw beer bottles at the musician, from which he is saved by the chain link mesh surrounding the stage. James sees a big bouncer in the club settle every dispute with a fist to the face. The big man then tells James to order a drink or get out of the bar, not realizing who he is. One of the waitresses introduces herself as Mary Ann, and her mouth opens in astonishment when James introduces himself.
Oh my God. Shit, I heard of you.
James then goes on to say hello to Cody, the blind lead singer of the band that was playing that night. Cody tells him that the Double Deuce is worse than any club he's ever worked in. Word spreads as Mary Ann tells the bouncers that the medium-built blonde man is the infamous James Dalton. One of the bouncers tells the others about a story he heard where James supposedly ripped a man's throat out with his bare hands. Another visitor offers his drinking buddy to kiss his girlfriend's melons for $20.
Are you kidding?
Amazed by the proposal, the man begins to squeeze her balloons.
Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Are you gonna kiss him or not? I can't. What do you mean you can't? I ain't got 20 bucks.
Because of this, a fight begins between the two of them, which turns into a mass brawl. The entire club goes into a frenzy, with bottles flying overhead like New Year's confetti. The following day, James visits a nearby dealership and buys a rundown car so as not to drive around in this Outback in his brand new Ferrari. He drives to a farm. There, he meets Emmett, an elderly farmer who rents out a well-maintained room on the second floor of a barn. The barn's condition surprises James, given its meticulous upkeep. Emmett's farm is situated by the lake, opposite a prominent businessman named Brad, who resides in a grand mansion. They see the millionaire flying to his mansion in a helicopter, at a very low altitude, purposely to scare away the farmer's horses. Appreciating the peaceful setting and Emmett's friendly demeanor, James agrees to rent the room, eager to settle into his new dwelling. The following day, Frank sits everyone down and instructs them to follow and obey every word James says. As his point of order, he fires Morgan, the big bouncer who is punching anyone and everyone with a face. The big man threatens him and leaves with his check. James fires one more person for selling illegal substances and sets the tone, telling anyone left to either listen to him or leave. As James settles into his new surroundings, he establishes 3 important rules to guide his actions. The first rule emphasizes the importance of never underestimating their opponent, recognizing that appearances can be deceiving and anyone may possess unexpected strengths. The second rule states that all conflicts should be taken outside, keeping the peace and avoiding unnecessary damage to property. Lastly, James highlights the significance of always maintaining a kind and cordial demeanor while dealing with customers. The bouncers get annoyed at the fact that that they have to remain civil when customers are uncivil to them, but James reminds them their job is to first and foremost control things before they get out of hand. James finishes the orientation by telling his men that he wants them to be nice until it's time not to be.
How are we supposed to know when that is?
You won't. I'll let you know.
The next day, James keeps a close eye on the club. One of the bouncers takes a couple of girls into the club for free. His gaze also falls on the bartender who hides the proceeds in his pocket. Moments later, a woman gets on the table and starts dancing. James orders Hank, one of the bouncers, to get her off the table, but her friend punches him and then draws a pocket knife. At that moment, James swoops in and slams the man's face through a table and tells his men to escort him out. In the back room, he finds a bouncer with a girl whom he brought into the club for free. Of course, for doing such things during working hours, Steve also gets a kick in the ass from the establishment.
Your history.
But I'm on my break.
Stay on it.
After the work shift, he approaches the bartender and announces that he has been fired for theft. The bartender is insolent in response and is not going to accept such news from the security chief. Then the soft-spoken club owner, in an uncertain tone, repeats James's words.
Get out.
The impudent bartender leisurely leaves the establishment. As James heads out to drive home, he discovers that his tires have been punctured and a rock has shattered his windshield. Strangely, he takes it all in stride, not letting it dampen his spirits. With a smile on his face, he walks home, seemingly unfazed by the mischief. However, that night, James finds it difficult to sleep as he hears the raucous sounds of a wild party happening across the lake, hosted by none other than Bradley. The noise echoes through the night, interrupting James's peace and adding to his restlessness. James wakes up to the loud call of Marianne, who somehow tracked him down to where he was living and brought him breakfast. Marianne then tells him he shouldn't have fired the bartender and makes a tired joke about James being a dead man walking.
Seems everywhere I go, I hear that same joke.
James drives to an auto spare parts garage, and the owner, Red, jokes,
New windshield's gonna cost you more than that old beater's worth. My advice, be scrapper.
In the store, he runs into Brad, and the two men get acquainted for the first time. The next day, when James goes to Frank's office, he is met with Pat, the recently fired bartender, and his goons. They put pressure on the bar owner and intend to give the bartender his job back.
Mr. Tillman has changed his mind.
One of the men reveals that Pat is the nephew of Brad, who supplies the liquor to the Double Deuce. James is not ready to compromise, so Pat takes out a huge knife and starts waving it in James' face. A fight breaks out, during which the main character is stabbed, but in the end, the bouncers of Double Deuce manage to sweep away the uninvited guests and throw them out of the establishment. James goes to the hospital to get stitches. He gets treated by the gorgeous Dr. Elizabeth, who jokes that the Double Deuce sends a lot of business her way. The attraction between the two is immediately apparent as they get to talking, and James invites her to have coffee sometime when she is available. Brad's men come back after getting beat up by James and his bouncers. Brad sees the bloodied men and gives one of them a beating to show his disappointment. Later that day, James goes to Red's auto parts store and sees Brad's men coming out of it with happy faces. He walks in and sees the place wrecked. He also notices Elizabeth's photo on the wall. James asks the old man how much money Bradley takes, and Red tells James that he and everyone in town pay 10%. James calls his old boss Wade, whom he learned everything he knew about the business from. James asks Wade if he knows of a man named Brad, and he warns him not to mess with him. One night at the club, a woman called Denise approaches James and attempts to entice him to go to bed with her, but one of Brad's men drags her out. In the parking lot, he gives the command to his people to act. 4 thugs stumble into a bar, but upon noticing a knife on one of the man's shoes, James says they are not welcome here. The man tries to stab James with a knife on his shoe, but he successfully breaks his leg, after which he drags him out of the bar, and the whole team of bouncers successfully beats the uninvited guests. All this is observed by Elizabeth, who came to James. After the fight, the two go to a diner and talk over a cup of coffee. Elizabeth drives him back to the club where his car is parked. They immediately notice that James's car is a wreck yet again. James smiles, kisses Elizabeth goodnight, and goes home. The next morning, James is relaxing like a cat on the hood of his car. Brad's people come to him and say that their boss wants to talk to him. He cheerfully jumps off the hood, scaring off the thugs, and goes with them to Brad. In the millionaire's house, he sees Denise, who was attempting to entice him last night, with a battered face. He walks into the kitchen where Brad is having breakfast. Brad gives a speech about how they're both similar and mentions that he heard that James had killed a man in Memphis. Brad alludes that although James had gotten off because it was self-defense, he doubts that it was. Brad then asks if James would work for him if he owned the club. James immediately refuses and walks out saying,
There's no amount of money
As the reputation of the club improves, the line stretches down the street with people eager to get in. And this time, the parking lot is filled with luxury cars instead of bikers. There are a lot of well-dressed people inside, and the stage is no longer fenced off with chain link. Although the business is growing, they need help getting liquor, as Brad controls the distribution in town. James tells Frank that he'll fix the problem and asks a bartender to pass him the phone. When James goes outside, he sees Elizabeth waiting for him there. Brad's people are watching them. The two drive back to James's place, and James learns that Brad is Elizabeth's uncle upon mentioning the photo he saw. Red raised her after her parents died. She went to study in another city and returned to this outback only because of him to take care of the old man. James asks why a woman as beautiful as Elizabeth isn't married and finds out that she is divorced. As the night goes on, the couple move to bed and spend a passionate night together. Brad is watching this. The pervert is very offended by this spectacle. The rumor that James is dating Elizabeth has already spread, and at the club, Cody warns his friend to watch his back. After all, Bradley had a thing for Elizabeth. When she left town, he went nuts. A few hours later, a truck arrives to deliver alcohol to the Double Deuce, but Brad's men disrupt the offloading. Chaos erupts as James finds himself entangled in a fight against 4 of Brad's men and struggles to hold his ground. At this time, his friend Wade parks his bike in front of the club and asks how to find James. Wade's intervention proves crucial as he swiftly joins the brawl, overpowering the goons one by one. Together, James and Wade effortlessly beat Brad's goons and send them off packing. James then introduces Wade to Elizabeth, and the three spend the night drinking and having fun at a bar until the morning. After closing the nightclub, they go to the diner. While Elizabeth went to the bathroom, Wade brings up what happened in Memphis and tells James not to beat himself up over something that happened years ago, and we learn that James had killed the husband of a woman he slept with, not knowing she was married. In the evening, James brought Wade to Double Deuce to show how he was doing at the club. However, their evening takes an unexpected turn when Red's auto store suddenly ignites and explodes in flames. The unsettling event disrupts the atmosphere, casting a dark shadow of apprehension over the night. Soon after, Brad strides into the bar, accompanied by his entourage, exuding an air of audacity. He boldly orders a drink, seemingly daring James to take action, as if provoking him to make the next move in their ongoing conflict. Brad tells his girlfriend to get on stage and dance for everyone. The blonde climbs onto the stage and dances a striptease. By the way, you can find the uncensored recap on my Telegram, the link down below. James takes her off the platform and tells Brad,
If you're gonna have a pet, keep it on a leash.
Brad then orders his men to start a fight. Jimmy, Brad's right-hand man, beats up the bouncers and even manages to get the best of Wade before James intervenes. As the two men engage in a fierce brawl, Brad disrupts the fight by firing his gun, putting an end to the commotion and instructing his men to retreat. Meanwhile, the town's businessmen gather, discussing the situation, while Red prepares to leave town, packing his belongings.
I can call a friend in Springfield who works for the FBI.
You gonna take the stand against him?
Word spreads about the impending rebellion, prompting Brad to retaliate by targeting one of the businessmen who owns a car dealership, destroying his business in mere minutes.
I never thought you'd turn on me too. This is my town.
Recognizing the town's deep-rooted issues, Wade suggests to James that they should both leave town together to escape the troubles. However, James declines the offer, feeling a sense of responsibility to confront and address the problems head-on. Wade says goodbye to James, admitting that he treats him like a son, and then leaves town. Later that night, Elizabeth visits James at his house, pleading with him to leave before the situation spirals out of control.
You think you're gonna save these people from Brad Wesley?
Well, who's gonna save him from you?
A sudden explosion rocks the area, originating from Emmett's house. Reacting swiftly, James springs into action, rushing towards the chaotic scene. With determination and bravery, he manages to rescue the elderly man from the remains of the house, risking his own well-being to save his life. As James witnesses Jimmy fleeing from the blazing house, rage consumes him, compelling him to pursue the man. The two engage in a fierce altercation, with James gaining the upper hand momentarily. However, the situation takes a perilous turn when Jimmy reveals a gun. In a split-second decision, James swiftly uses his signature move, violently severing the man's throat and killing him instantly. Elizabeth, witnessing the gruesome act, tries to help the victim. Realizing that James had killed him, she flees home in disbelief and horror, while James, fueled by vengeance, calls out for Brad to confront him directly.
Wesley! Wesley! Fuck you!
The following morning, Brad contacts James, nonchalantly inquiring about whom he wants to see perish, either Wade or Elizabeth. James answers,
You are a sick man.
refusing to engage in Brad's twisted game. Mockingly, Brad flips a coin, joking that he will inform James of the outcome. However, at that moment, Wade bursts into the scene, wounded but alive, and says that 3 men stopped him on the road and beat him up properly. James leaves his friend to rest and have a beer, and rushes to the hospital to pick up Elizabeth. However, Elizabeth, after what she saw last night, doesn't want to go with James and sends him to hell. Feeling disheartened, James decides to return to the club, only to discover that Wade, his friend, has been stabbed. Consumed by anger, James drives to Brad's house, using his car as a diversion to gain entry unnoticed. In the mansion, he stealth kills one enemy after another. Reacting swiftly, James stabs one of the men, using the other as a shield when Brad's nephew attempts to shoot him. With a deft throw of a knife, he swiftly neutralizes his foe, ensuring his own safety and eliminating the threat posed by Brad's nephew. He crushes the chubby guy with a stuffed polar bear, and in the end, only Brad remains. James knocks the gun away from him and begins to fight the old man one-on-one, while he tries to compensate for his lack of athletic skills with a spear. After a long fight, James beats Brad and prepares to deliver his fatal signature blow, but ultimately decides not to kill the old man. Elizabeth comes running. James is distracted by the girl. At this time, Brad grabs a gun, but the businessmen arrive in time and shoot the villain with guns. Red collects the guns and takes them away in an unknown direction. The police arrive and, seeing a little mess, ask what happened. All the businessmen unanimously answer that they didn't see anything.
You see anything, Pete?
No, I didn't see anything.
By this time, the chubby guy got out from under the bear. Understanding the whole situation, he also states that he saw nothing.
You see anything, Tinker?
Polar bear fell on me.
Everyone is incredibly happy that they have finally rid the city of the bad guy. In a pivotal decision, James chooses to remain in the town, finding solace in the arms of Elizabeth. The Double Deuce has finally turned into a thriving club with excellent music performed by Jeff Healey.
Smoke is in your eyes. You brought a smile.
You can watch the uncensored recap of this movie on my Telegram, the link down below. Write in the comments if you are waiting for the remake of this movie starring Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm very interested to know your opinion. Thank you for watching. See you soon.